Morning guys, it's Tuesday morning and this is a video about my welding carts, and we'll just start with the MIG welding cart. On top of that one I have my Miller 180 auto set. Basically this cart was built for me by a friend for my last MIG welder. I used to just carry my welder around, but he made this one for me. And basically what we have is a bunch of looks like 1.5" angle iron, and this one sits about 2.5 feet off the ground, which I don't know that I'd recommend it because it's kind of narrow, and it makes it a little top heavy, but it's not too bad. So it's got some small cheapy caster wheels on the front, and on the back it's got some lawnmower, like push mower type wheels, and the way those are attached to the bottom is there's a nut welded to the bottom, and then those are bolts running through the wheels. So that's kind of how you make the back axle. I suppose you could do it differently and put a piece of bar stock through there that was the right diameter, and weld a washer or something to the end of it. But those we welded a nut on the back and then put a bolt through it, and then I tack welded the nut in there so it can't walk out. And then those are just a flat mounting base on there, and those are tacked to the bottom. And then on the front here I have this little hook that I welded. This is like 1 inch, or I'm sorry, 3/4 or 1 inch pipe, I forget which I just sort of cobbed together. And you can see the torch I have setting in there. That's a good place to stick the torch when it's hot. You can also wind the leads around it. Usually I wind them around the handle, but I like to make bigger loops with it because the tighter loops you make, the harder it is on the torch. So it's got the little shelf on the bottom. I've got my nozzle gel and another spool of wire and some clamps, and then I have some clamps hanging from the handle there. But then on the back side of this cart, I took a piece of flat steel. This is probably 1/8 inch, and I cut a C notch in it to accept the bottle in the top. And then I have a chain that's welded on the other side, and then it loops around to that chain link that I cut a notch in, and that's welded to the cart to keep the bottle from falling off. And then it's got a little plate on the bottom that I welded, and that's cut where it's rounded on the edge. And then I just took a piece of bar stock, actually I think that's 1/8 inch or 3/16, and I just bent it around and tacked it as I beat it around. Once it starts getting hot, it's easier to form it around. So that's the MIG welding cart. That tends to work pretty good. And then the one for my plasma cutter here, I have my Thermodynamics Cutmaster 52 on this one. And I made this one a little different. It was just what I had laying around, but fairly similar. Same idea, lawnmower wheels on the back with a nut welded to the bottom, and then the bolt goes through the wheel to make the axle. Some cheapy casters on the front. And then this one is made out of 1.25 inch, I think, square tubing. And it's not perfect. It was just sort of thrown together too, just like the other one. I was going to make an angled shelf for it, as I wish I would have done with my MIG welder too. That would have been nice. But the plasma cutter just sitting on I think there's a piece of 1/8 inch steel there, because it's what I had for scrap, that makes that shelf. And then the bottom I think is some sheet metal. But most of this is just butt welded together. Nothing's fancy on it. I mean, I got a couple angles on the handle. It's got some Oliver tractor paint on it because it's what I had laying around. So that works pretty good. The one thing I like about this one is the little chair rail that I put around the top. So the plasma cutter, you can't knock it off of there. And I just looped the cords around the top. Plasma cutter has some real long torch leads, so you need quite a bit to wrap those up. The one thing I wish I would have done different, if you look where my air inlet is on the back there, if I put a regulator and a different filter other than this motor guard one. I don't suggest the motor guard ones threading into the back of a plasma cutter because, first of all, they're plastic, and if you kick the cord, you'll rip it out of there, and then you have a horny snake air hose whipping around your shop, and then you have to extract the plastic male threads out of the back of the plasma cutter. So I would suggest something better than that. But those are my two welding carts. Again, nothing too fancy, both homemade. I made the one for the plasma, and like I said, a buddy of mine made this one to me. I have altered it because I used to have a smaller Miller, a 110 unit. This 180 is a 220 volt unit. I like this welder a lot. I love the Cutmaster 52 plasma. So those are my two carts. Again, I don't think, if I had the choice, I would not make a welding cart that tall because it's just not stable. I would keep it as short as possible, and I would probably, if I had to do it all over again, I would angle the shelves so that the welder sat up at you at an angle. So that's what I got for my two. I'll post this up for you guys, and you can check them out and see what you think.